I feel my heart pounding against my chest. The touch is gone as quickly as it sees me. Hello, Dylan here. Welcome back to the letter. If you're new here, then why are you watching like part 9 or 10 or whatever part this is? Go watch the ones before. Otherwise, some of this ain't gonna make sense. Also, there would be spoilers, so that would be weird. Oh, and while you're here, want to consider, subscribing. Help a smaller channel here. Help a small channel grow. Anyway, we continuing this. Zachary proves quickly enough that I can in fact trust him. His skills with the camera experience in this industry, at the very least. He is kind and courteous, listening and following as I lead him around the house. A very nice fellow, and he treats our household staff well whenever we cross paths with them. I answer his question to the best of my ability, and he is patient enough to answer mine whenever I get curious enough. For one, I ask what the bags are for. They are quite the magician's toolkit. From inside, he had procured several items to embellish the interior with. Bowls of fruit, lemons, trays with peppermills, stacks of cookbooks, cutting boards, and glass canisters filled with colorful nuts and grains are brought in for a kitchen setting. For the bathroom, there are white towels, seashells, and decorative soaps. There are other things as well, too numerous to count, all in that large backpack and suitcase.
Tricks of the trade. Softens up a room, makes a place feel more homey, and fills it up with texture. But you guys probably have better stuff I can use for this.
No lights. Don't tell me all of these are just props.
Well, I've got my tripod here. For things like these, natural light is best. I'll just have to set the shutter speed to a real slow setting, and as long as nobody steps into the shot, it'll look great.
Oh, it better.
We go through the rooms one at a time, although we first tackle the ones that the movers have no business in anymore. Ooh. It's the ballroom, of course. The ballroom needs a little preparation with its grand design. Although there is some triple efforts with the wide open space and pictures being backlit. It is in the kitchen that Zachary's props come in handy, considering how I don't know if I'll ever say his name right. Johann kept the place so neat and sterile, one can practically eat off the floor. Carry on touring the house, taking pictures where we can, with the exception to the rooms which have yet to gain any purpose or design. Too bad I can't take a sneak peek at his photos yet. Funnily enough, he was using a traditional camera. I didn't even know film still existed. With the way he speaks, however, I can see that he knows enough about his craft that I'm not too worried about botched photographs. I imagine photography must be cathartic for him, judging by how at ease he looks while taking pictures. There are small snippets of conversation in between the clicking of the camera. He even goes as far as to talk about those terminologies like shutter speeds and aperture when I ask about the technical aspects. I can't quite see the picture as it is made, much like when I watch artists paint on their canvases. But just watching someone passionately practice their craft such as this is exciting in its own way. Going through the many rooms has been quite the exercise for the both of us. Despite that, he has been so nice and I find myself putting on my best smile. But it is as we're taking pictures in before that everything comes to a standstill for a moment. Just a moment. And had I not been paying attention, I wouldn't have even noticed. It's merely a split second when Zachary's rhythm is put to a halt. His finger doesn't move to release the shutter, yet he also doesn't pull the camera away from his face, gaze still firmly fixed to the viewfinder. His hands shake, and there is a light sheen of sweat on his forehead. No response.
Zach, is something the matter?
Does she not see it? Does she not feel it? Lowering his camera, he blinks and stares at something behind me before shaking his head. Turning around, though, I see nothing that could have gotten his attention.
Oh, no, there's nothing wrong. I just remembered something that's all.
Is it after her? Is it after Hannah next? I mean, it would make sense. We're playing as Hannah right now. So that would make sense.
Let's get back to the pictures. Can you move a bit more to the left, yeah?
I struggled to respond this time. I had a sudden weight on my back and an indescribable tightness around my throat. So she does feel it. She's not seeing it, but she is feeling it. Everything stops, and everything starts again as I manage to choke out.
If you're sure.
I don't know what just happened. It was probably just a dizzy spell. I'm fine. And he said he's fine. We continue at the same pace as before, although there is an unspoken agreement that we will not talk about what happened.
So, is this a full-time job for you then?
Oh, sorry. I have a tendency to save a lot.
Nah, I just freelance mostly for magazines, newspapers, and events. So you can't really call it a full-time job. It's fun and it puts food on the table, but it's not what I really want to do. At least, not all the time.
What is it that you want to do then?
Maybe I've been out of line sticking my nose into other people's businesses, but I can't help but ask. I regret doing so as I see his shoulders slump and the easygoing air as he has fades away. He looks torn over whether they want to talk about it or not.
Films. Documentaries mostly. But cinematography is a lot more difficult than photography, right? I was working on this thing, actually.
What thing?
Well, it wasn't really a big thing. People didn't like Blue Fonzie very much.
People don't like a film about colors. I suppose they would have liked Blue Bibby a lot more.
Very funny.
So, Grand Director, do you want to tell me what Blue Fonzie is all about?
He hesitates, but when I refuse to budge on the matter, he gives in and spills it all out. Blue Fonzie, le hair le plus sombre des noirs botaniques. I don't know if I said. I know at the very least I know that first part. I know I said right because I already heard that. The rest of that, completely wild guess of how I just pronounced that. Dark blue, the darkest hours of the Black British. He speaks with passion of one who has gone through the very matter he is concerned with. There's conviction, knowledge, and experience in his speech. Why, I would have told him that he is an amazing speaker if only I wasn't so engrossed listening. Prejudice and discriminations in schools and in the workplace. Lesser chances for opportunity and higher chances of being treated like a criminal. He spoke of blacks and people of color in general and still being treated like second-class citizens, all because of the color of their skin. And it is all just positively riveting and sad. Comes to a point where he soon loses steam. He looks abashed, realizing what he had just done.
Sorry, I just got so carried away and...
It's fine. It is really so fascinating to watch people talk about their passion after all. You should see how your eyes light up when you speak so fiercely. You do have very beautiful eyes.
Uh-huh. Thanks, I guess.
I want to say that I understand where it's coming from, but I really don't, do I? I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth and I've lived a charmed life. It hasn't been perfect, but the difficulties I've been through pales in comparison to what others experience on a daily basis. I certainly don't know how I would have fared were it any different. Would I still have met Luke, and would he still have loved me if I was any lesser?
What was your home like? These things you talk about. It sounds like you... Well, I don't mean to pry, I mean.
Live with my older sister and my grandparents. We had a shop selling all sorts of things below our flat. And well, I was one of the few non-white, non-British students in class. I didn't get pushed around or anything straight up. Even then, I was one of the biggest kids around, but a pencil and notebook would go missing, you know?
Oh, that I know. Children can be so cruel at times. Of course, it may be a slightly different story when you have personal guards, and the stolen item is not a pencil, but an expensive heirloom.
So what about you? How you liking your new house? It's pretty impressive.
It's nice, I suppose.
You suppose? Not big enough?
What? No, oh, don't be a bully. It's just that...
I understand if you don't want to talk about it.
I was a little girl, all dolled up, treated like fragile porcelain with nursemaids waiting to me hand and foot. All the material possessions anyone could ever want, I could ask for on a whim, and it would be handed to me just like that. But I barely saw my parents, just like goodbye kisses in the morning before they went off. Just goodbye kisses in the morning before they went off to who knows where they were needed to next. I saw them more often on the telly or in the papers than I ever did in person.
I remember my old house. It was a lot like this one. Big walls and big halls, but nobody in it. Not really. It makes you think how alone you are.
A pensive mood overcomes us, and there's a moment where neither of us are sure how to get on from there. Things have gotten a bit too personal, yet it isn't wholly uncomfortable, like as if we've been friends before.
Well, that's normal, ain't it? You just moved here. You'll make home out of it yet.
Certainly makes it easy to believe that. My childhood house is indeed a lot like this one. It's large and extravagant, just as large and extravagant, and just as empty. Elby's right.
So, Monsieur le Photographe, you've covered the one and only Ermengarde mansion. What's next on the agenda?
The interview?
Boring. It's an interior design and housing magazine.
And they want to know what Miss Wright has to say about her interior design and house.
Honor Wright thinks she bought a magnificent house that she can certainly brag about. Blah, blah. Boring. You know what they should print more of? I watched an interesting documentary the other day. Bleu Foncé, The Darkest Hours of the Black British. I recommend you watch it. Those are the things that people should know about. What do they care if I use a purple or green bowl of fruit in my kitchen?
People, right?
Oui. People are shite. What do you think? Do I look good with this angle?
I strike a pose while he's being busy looking, taken aback for a moment, probably not expecting me to just go and say such a crass word. But he recovers quickly, and after slumping a few shots, he grins.
Yeah, vous êtes belle. You want copies of these ones?
Yes, please. So, the big boy knows French. You must have wooed a few ladies. Unless you're into gents. Either way, French is, after all, the language of romance.
Oh, I don't know about quoting fancy poetry, but I've made lunch for a girl before, and they did like that fancy French cuisine.
Can you cook your best?
I can cook just about anything as long as I know the recipe.
C'est magnifique.
It's been too long since I had such a nice and proper chat with a good friend. Now, Lee is certainly not a good friend. Although we've just met, Zachary is the sort who can probably befriend anyone. Oh, yes, he can. He's just a comfortable person to be around with. A bit too comfortable. The photo shoot went by breeze, and somewhere along the way, as we talk and laugh, I find myself getting a bit too close without realizing. He'll give me this strange look until I back off, and he'll go back to asking questions after I agree to do his little interview. It's just odd. Well, no. Me being friendly isn't that odd, that is how I am. Zachary's the one that's being odd. Why, anyone else would absolutely welcome the extra attention I give them. He, on the other hand, looks almost flustered about it. He should be used to different personalities by now, having to deal with various people when he works. And if not, he needs to start. Perhaps nobody has shown him attention of this kind, but he's a big boy. He should be able to handle me. All it is a friendly touch here, a pretty smile there, and a gentle swing of the hips as I move. Zachary grew and grew more red every time he noticed. Am I being mean as I find enjoyment in seeing him unravel? Perhaps. This went on during the interview, and beyond that, there's something wrong with what we're doing, right? Zachary and I are just having a playful, friendly chat while enjoying the view outside. At least that's how I see it.
I'm sorry, but I'm really getting distracted. Could you maybe stop doing that?
Stop? I'm not sure if I want to, though. To be fair, she's kind of married, so... Go
I'll
ahead.
stop if it makes you uncomfortable, sweetie.
Good.
Sorry.
No, I should be the one apologizing. Why, you're a shy one, aren't you, big guy?
It's not that, but...
He gestures to the ring on my finger and lets the fact of the matter hang heavily between us. Being told implicitly that I am too forward is not a common occurrence. I think I'm more stunned at the fact that he pointed it out rather than Will being rejected. Not that anything is going to happen between us in the first place. It was just going to be the same harmless flirting, right?
So, you've never had a girlfriend?
No. No boyfriend either. You know, just in case you were gonna ask for that one next.
And you haven't even had your first kiss?
Not a one, ma'am.
Do you want to have your first kiss today?
I can't help it. I really can't, and I'm going to apologize lots later, surely by the catty smile on my face. It is obvious that I'm just pulling his leg. Laugh I feel to contain certainly gives it away if it still isn't obvious. But still, he lights up in embarrassment, stammering and sputtering objections.
You're married, and this will be extremely unprofessional.
I never said I would kiss you, silly. Oh, Johans!
No, what? No. Don't call your butler. She's Hannah.
That would be for the better. I don't think his husband would appreciate it if I made him kiss another man. I do not think he can hear us from here either. But it is hard to think you're not taken, Zachary. Why, whoever becomes your girlfriend will be so lucky to have you. You can cook and take wonderful photographs. Wonderful meals and wonderful memories.
I can play guitar too.
You can? Oh my. Wonderful serenades as well then. Perhaps I can find a young lady who deserves a fine, strapping young gentleman like yourself.
Let's not get carried away. Besides, I gotta be going. It's getting late and I got someplace else to be.
A shame. I will be expecting you again soon, I hope. For a copy of my photographs, yes?
Of course. I'll even deliver them personally. Just, don't try to make me kiss your butler when I drop by.
As fate would have it, the very moment the words leave his mouth, Johann comes out of the house. Judging by the slight raise of his brows, he had heard only the tail end of the sentence.
There shall be no kissing of any butlers under this roof. Danke.
But you are not under a roof, are you, Hansi?
To my amusement, he takes a step back, safely placing him within the threshold of the foyer and to the roof of the house. Just as ever, he is quick to return with a sardonic reply.
I am now. As I was saying, madam, it's about time for supper. Will I be needing to set an extra place at the table?
Oh, what? No, I was just leaving, actually. So, you have a good night, Hannah. And you too, Hansi.
It was nice to meet you, Zach, honey. You have a safe trip.
He nods, and the grin on his face as we say our goodbyes is the sweetest that I have ever seen. I linger looking out for him, with his relatively tiny bicycle backpack safely secured in the basket in front, and the suitcases hooked to the back. As I watched as he went down the path to the Anselm village, until he is nothing more than a blip in the horizon. I cannot help the small smile on my face as I go inside for supper. And entering the dining hall causes me so much confusion. It is dark. For a moment I thought the electric work is not up to par, but then clearly it's not the case, as every other room is bright with artificial light. Finding the light switch is a monumental task considering the size and the unfamiliarity of the room. To make matters worse, the darkness grants the room a different atmosphere, eerie and frightening. It takes longer than I expected to find the switch, something that will have to be rectified later on. My skin starts to prickle and there is a distinct feeling of being watched. It unsettles me and only spurs me on in my search. And when I do open the lights, there is a hiss.
I'll turn the lights down, woman!
Of course, he's definitely drunk. There at the end of the hall is my beloved husband, with his face in one hand and a glass in the other. Perhaps I can let it go if it's only one glass of wine. However, I can feel myself go livid after seeing the toxic green liquid gleam mockingly at me.
Luke, what? Are you drinking absinthe? You know what the doctor said. Absinthe, Luke. Are you actively trying to kill yourself?
What?
Because if you are, we can just hit you with a bloody car.
Honeybee, Buttercup, not too loud, please. Besides, it's Lelouch, not too strong. Just hair of the dog that bit me. Helps with the hangover, dearest.
You drank? When?
This morning, love. Don't be mad. I just needed a few drinks, having to deal with those simpletons. And maybe I had one too much. You don't see me whinging about you leaving me to handle them on my own.
I had to attend the photo shoot and interview with Luxury Living. You know that. Let's not make this about me, Luke. This is about you and your drinking problem and...
Oh, I don't know, Hannah, darling. What if my drinking problem, as you like to call it, is linked to you? If we think about it that way, this discussion is about you. That was pretty mean of you, leaving me alone to do all the work like that. You can't use the interview as an excuse either, honey. I was informed the moment your little interview was done. So, what was it then, What were you doing?
Should I tell the truth or tell a little lie? I don't want to hear him talk about Zach. I'm lying.
I was just tending to the garden, sweetie.
Okay, I just don't want to hear him talking about Zachary. I don't want to have to deal with that again. I just know how he'll react.
You were?
For a moment, he looks skeptical. I can tell by the gleam in his eye and the way he sits up in attention. He thinks I'm lying. But I see no point in bringing up Zachary and aggravating him. Exactly. I did tend to the gardens for a bit, so it's not a complete lie. Well, there you go. It's a half-truth. Just a little white lie. Besides, I know just how to please him. Sauntering over, circling around him, I place my fingers on his shoulder. Let out a little groan before melting like butter as I massage his shoulders.
I had to make sure they didn't ruin your favorite daffodils.
Oh, that is wonderful.
I'm not sure if it means the massage or the flowers, but I'll take it. This is better than a fight.
So, absinthe.
Just one glass, Loosh.
I suppose I can let this one go. A bit too late anyway, you've already drank half the thing. But remember your doctor's orders.
Yes, I'll try to drink less.
Try.
Hey, I'm only human. Do you want one?
No, thank you.
Supper is spent in silence with nothing but the occasional sound of silverware. A grand feast has been served. Well, grander than usual anyway, most likely due to Luke's complaints of stress. A platter of native oysters for starters and a transo turbot with purple sprouting broccoli, lemon, capers, and anchovy sauce for mains. To finish off, black tea and golden syrup sponge pudding with custard. But when our appetites are appeased and the plates are cleared up, Luke stands, kisses me goodnight, and leaves me to stare at my half-empty cup. Lonely in the lull of night, I sit in a house too big, too empty, foreign and unwelcoming. Even with its warm tone and homely decor, it feels cold. There is no need for tears. However, I know I can get through this like every other obstacle that I faced before. This is a minor setback, what I hope will be a long and happy life. To remind myself that this place is for Luke and for our future children fills me with a renewed vigor. Besides, it looks like someone is having a cry already. The wailing is far away and muffled. Yet at the same time, it shakes me to my very core as I hear it. That does not sound human at all. Can you hear it a little bit? Can you hear it? It does not sound human. Okay, back to the story. As if the suffering is just standing right beside me. Hearing it sends a chill down my spine and makes my skin prickle with goosebumps. Who is that? Hey, let's do this. Here Ashley sinks in as I follow the sorrow sound into the kitchen. I don't like this. And into the wine cellar hatch.
Hello? Is anybody down there?
Don't call out to it. I'm curious and concerned, but there's no way I'm going down into a dark human underground. I'm not as enthusiastic as Luke, who considers himself quite the connoisseur. However, I can However, I also cannot bring myself to go to bed with this racket going on. If it is one of the household help, they will really need some talking. After all, this would be the first time I've gone and found one of the maids sobbing their eyes out over one thing or another. As professional as our staff are, they are still human. More often than not, it was either Johans or I who'd calm them down, who'd help them figure out how to go on about things. Unfortunately, I'm not in high spirits right now, so I'm not as totally beneficial. So I will. You just had to make me fucking choose, don't you? You're making me fucking choose. Of course you are. I'm not opening that hatch. I'll call them out. I knock 3 times. Waiting for any sort of reply yields me no results, and I've already touched the floor. I've spoke too many times to know what I'd like. Take a deep breath before reaching out again to whoever's inside. I've learned from experience that people respond better to kindness than threats. Shouting angrily will not help in coaxing them out.
You, in the cellar? Do come out. We don't want Luke waking up and finding you in there, do we? That man would go ballistic thinking someone was trying to steal his precious wine.
Still nothing.
You can have a good cry. Just not in there, yes? Why don't you come out here and we can have a cuppa and you can tell me all about whatever it is you're bawling about?
With how long I'm standing here over, I'm trying to think myself a fool. I do not want to acknowledge the feeling I have, especially as the wailing took an eerie turn. The thought of being played with didn't sit too well with me. I had to stop myself from getting too hot-headed as I try one more time.
Now, you come out of there! That is an order from the lady of the house, do you hear me? Why, I ought to...
It freezes a hand clamps down on my shoulder. The dread of a feeling all this time makes itself known as I kneel unmoving, not even daring to breathe. I feel my heart pounding against my chest, but the touch is gone as quickly as it sees me. It is only Johann's when I see when I look back.
Apologies, madam, for touching you like that. You were not responding to my voice, and you looked about ready to wake the whole mansion up.
I'm sorry. I was getting rather loud, wasn't I? But that crying woman in there, we must do something about her.
I guess he doesn't hear it. He grows silent for a moment and just looks concerned. At least I like to interpret it as concerned, given how stoic our head butler usually is. Rather, I must have been concerned as he takes off a glove and presses the back of his hand to my forehead before his worrisome inquiry.
I beg your pardon. What crying woman?
Yep.
Are you feeling well, madam?
In the cellar. Can't you hear her?
Madam, Hannah, no one is down there.
What?
The cellar is locked. Only Luke and I have duplicates of the keys. Nobody is down there.
I stare at him in disbelief, but when I listen once more, I hear no crying. Tugging at the hatch for a good measure to prove his words to be true, too. The thing won't budge unless I had a key, sort of using power tools on it.
Perhaps it is time for you to go to bed, madam.
So I wouldn't have been able to open the hatch anyway, technically. But I'm assuming something a lot different would happen if I tried to open it.
You are simply tired and hearing things, a perfectly normal human experience. But if you are still experiencing auditory hallucinations in the morning, you are free to consult with me.
There's a cold feeling in the pit of my stomach as he helps me up to my feet. What he says makes sense, and who I am to question someone who used to be a doctor. I'm just tired, that's it. Long day of moving, the interview, dealing with Luke, that has all drained me of any proper sense.
Yes, I suppose you're right. I just need some sleep, that's all.
Of course I'm right. Go on then. Gute Nacht.
Good night, Johannes. Good night, house.
It's just fatigue. That's what I keep telling myself, although I can't ignore the strange feeling in my gut. Either there's something wrong with the house, or there's something wrong with my head. Sleep will be elusive tonight. Yes, that shall be where we end the game. Not the game. End this video. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Letter, whichever number it is. Can't remember right now. Hope you enjoyed nonetheless. And, all this usual stuff. Subscribe and check out all the videos here that I've done. And I hope you return for more. Goodbye.